Calvin Murphy was a scorer in its purest form. He stood only 5'9", but he was such a great offensive player that his height really wasn't a hindrance. He was so much of a legend in high school that they renamed their address after him. Calvin would go on to play at the University of Niagara, where he averaged 38 points a game as a sophomore. He would then get drafted by the Rockets, as he would have no problem adjusting to the NBA, although his playing time was inconsistent over his first few seasons. Despite his size, he had no fear driving to the basket, using his lightning-quick first step to finish with an acrobatic layup or his trademark floater. He also had one of the best mid-range jumpers in the league, as he got a lot of elevation on his jump shot. Although he was a high-volume scorer, he was extremely efficient, shooting 48% for his career. He wasn't a player you wanted to foul either, as he was nearly automatic from the charity stripe. Calvin was also a capable passer, and he gave everything he had on defense. He never backed down from anyone, as he was known as an enforcer despite his height, but he was a loyal player who helped Houston reach their first finals in franchise history. All he wanted to do was prove his doubters wrong, and he definitely did, becoming a trailblazer for undersized guards, as he was the shortest All-Star since 2015, and the Pocket Rocket still is the shortest NBA player in the Hall of Fame. Welcome to PC Hoops, and let's get down to it. Calvin was born on May 9th, 1948 in Norwalk, Connecticut. He would be an elite baton twirler from a young age, saying he was bullied into it as his mom and all 6 of his sisters twirled as well. He would win a national championship as an 8th grader, even performing at the New York World's Fair. The dexterity required for baton twirling would also help him on the basketball court, where he would be a legend for Norwalk High. He spent 3 years on varsity, averaging 40 points a game as a senior, dropping 59 points in the state championship game. Calvin was named Mr. Basketball USA and a first-team parade All-American, as Norwalk High would later honor him by changing their address to 23 Calvin Murphy Road. After his exceptional high school career, with offers from over 200 schools, he decided that he would attend Niagara, as he could twirl the baton between the halves of Buffalo Bills games. The Purple Eagles had an NBA-level big man in many leagues, but Calvin would get the ultimate green light, shooting 32 times a game along with 12 free throw attempts. But he was scoring points at the same pace, dropping 57 in the second exhibition game against Villa Madonna. He also dropped 52 on LaSalle, 50 on Syracuse, 50 on Buffalo, and 48 on Canisius, finishing the season averaging 38 points and 5 rebounds, ranking second in scoring behind Pistol Pete. However, Niagara's defense was ranked 172nd, as they finished the season 12-12, but Calvin would be named a second-team All-American. Many leagues left for the NBA after the season, and the Purple Eagles hired Frank Layden as their new coach. Calvin continued his role as a primary scorer, and he continued his dominance, dropping 47 on Indiana, 47 on Columbia, and an insane 68 points on Syracuse. Calvin averaged 32 points and 3.5 rebounds this season, being named a first-team All-American, becoming part of the 3 All-American M's, Murphy, Rick Mount, and Maravich. But Niagara's defense was still bad, and they finished 11-13, missing the tournament. In 1969, Calvin took fewer shot attempts this season, but his field goal percentage was the highest of his college career. Niagara was also winning a lot this year, taking 8 straight to win the season, including a 1-point win over number 6 Tennessee. The next week, they were ranked for the first time in school history. They finished the season at 22-7 with a number 17 ranking, making their first ever NCAA tournament. Calvin averaged 29.5 points and 3.5 rebounds on 46% shooting, becoming a first-team All-American again. Niagara faced Penn in their first game, as Calvin put up 35 points and 5 rebounds in a 10-point win. They faced Howard Porter in Villanova next, but they were no match for Porter's 29-18, as they lost by 25. Calvin scored 18 points on 8 of 22 shooting. They faced NC State in the regional third-place game, but they lost by 20, as 3 Wolfpack players put up over 20 and 10. Calvin had a great game though, dropping 35 points and 7 rebounds on 50% shooting, making the all-region team. Calvin was picked 18th overall in the 1970 NBA draft by the San Diego Rockets, joining another rookie in Rudy Tomjanovich. San Diego was led by their dynamic young center, Elvin Hayes, and the reliable guard, Stu Lance. Calvin got inconsistent minutes over the first month of the season, but he was still producing, averaging 11 points and 3 assists over the first 20 games, albeit on 38% shooting. He became a starter on November 27th, and he improved greatly, dropping 5 straight 20-point games, including a 23-point, 11-assist double-double on December 5th against the Lakers. He dropped a season high of 36 points on 78% shooting on January 5th against Chicago. Calvin's rookie season ended with him averaging 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists on 46% shooting, finishing 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. Elvin Hayes averaged 29 and 17 this season, while Stu Lance had the best season of his career with 21, 5, and 4. But San Diego was a very average team, finishing 40-42, missing the playoffs. The Rockets moved to Houston in 1971 as Calvin and Rudy became permanent starters. But despite all the young talent they had, they couldn't win as they went 2-8 in their first 10 games. Calvin was in and out of the starting lineup this year, but he was scoring pretty well as he put up 34 20-point games and 5 30-point games, along with 2 double-doubles. He averaged 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists on 45% shooting. Despite another dominant season from Elvin Hayes, the Rockets were an inefficient offensive team as they ranked third last in assists and second to last in field goal percentage, finishing 34-48, missing the playoffs again. The Rockets looked a lot different in 1972, as Stu Lance was traded to the Pistons for Jimmy Walker, and their star big man Elvin Hayes wanted out, so he was traded to the Bullets for Jack Marin. Even with the loss of all that scoring, Calvin's minutes went down this year to only about 22 a game. Jimmy Walker was coming off an all-star appearance with Detroit, so he became the starting point guard. Calvin's best game of the season was a 31-point, 4-rebound, and 4-assist game against the Braves in the season finale. Houston's offense had improved a lot this year, but they had the second worst defense, as they had both a 7-game and a 10-game losing streak this year. Calvin's frustrating season saw him average 13 points, 2 rebounds, and 3.5 assists on 46% shooting, as Houston was allergic to winning, finishing 33-49, making this the 4th straight season missing the playoffs. The Rockets traded Jimmy Walker to the Kings 3 games into the 1973 season, clearing the way for Calvin to finally get the minutes he needed. He dropped 31 points and 10 assists in the season opener, as this was just one of 22 double-doubles this year. He had a near triple-double on December 14th against the Celtics, with 21 points, 10 assists, and a career-high 9 steals. 5 days later, he dropped a new career high of 39 points and 7 assists on 55% shooting. Despite Calvin's breakout season, Houston was still a terrible team, as they finished 32-50. Calvin averaged 20.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 2 steals on a career-high 52% shooting. 1974 was the year that Houston finally turned the corner. Calvin had another consistent season with 27 20-point games, 8 30-point games, and a new career high of 45 points and 8 assists against the Braves on December 28th. He recorded 4 double-doubles, averaging 19 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.5 steals on 48% shooting. Houston was finally winning as they finished 41-41, making their first playoff appearance since 1969, facing the Knicks in the first round. Calvin dropped 22 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in his playoff debut, while the Knicks couldn't buy a bucket, as Earl Monroe shot 5 for 20 and Bill Bradley shot 3 for 11 in a 15-point Houston win. New York shot 54% in Game 2 in a 10-point win, as Calvin dropped 20, 3, and 3 on 7 of 19 shooting. Houston dominated the Knicks in the series-deciding Game 3, out-rebounding them 51-34, dropping 35 assists to New York's 9, and shooting a blistering 58% in a 32-point win, as the Rockets faced the Celtics next in the conference finals. Calvin dropped 19-6 in Game 1, but he shot 5 for 13 in a 17-point loss. He broke out for 30-9 in Game 2, but they would lose again as Dave Cowens dropped 28, 18, and 6. Houston avoided a 3-0 deficit behind 28 from Rudy, 26 from Mike Newland, and 22 from Calvin. Murphy had an excellent Game 4 with 35 points and 4 steals, as the Rockets also got 31 from Mike and 25 from Rudy. But the Celtics would still win as Cowens dropped 31 points, 24 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Game 5 was another high-scoring affair as Houston had 4 20-point scores, including 27 from Calvin. The Rockets shot 50%, but the Celtics shot an insane 61% as they won by 13 and closed the series out in 5. Houston really didn't change much in 1975, but Calvin was establishing himself as one of the better scorers in the league, dropping 40 points in the 3rd game of the year, followed by 33 points and 12 assists 2 games later. He had 17 double-doubles in the year, including a streak of 3 straight in mid-March. He would lead the team in scoring for the first time, averaging 21 points, 2.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 2 steals. Houston's offense was great, ranking first in field goal percentage and assists, but they had the worst defense in the league, so they finished 40-42, missing the playoffs. The Rockets finally made some big changes in 1976, orchestrating a trade with the Braves to bring in a promising big man in Moses Malone to pair with Tom Janovich. They also drafted a solid guard from Maryland in John Lucas. Since the offense mostly ran through Rudy and now Moses Malone had to get shots, Calvin's shot attempts went down this year. He averaged 16 points and 5 assists through the first 20 games, but he was shooting a highly efficient 52%, and the Rockets were 14-6. Since John Lucas was doing a lot of the passing, this resulted in only 3 double-doubles from Calvin this year, but he still had a good season, averaging 18 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Houston had turned around this year, finishing with a 49-33 record, which was their best in franchise history up to that point. They faced the Bullets in the semifinals, as Calvin had a modest 10 points and 4 assists in Game 1, but the Rockets would lose as Mitch Kupchak dropped 32 and 16 off the bench. Game 2 was a different story, as Moses would carry them to an overtime win with 31 points and 26 rebounds. Calvin dropped 16 points and 3 assists. The teams would split the next 2 games, with Calvin averaging 17 and 5. He would then explode for 40 points on 55% shooting in Game 5, before coming back down to earth with 11 in Game 6. But Houston would win and advance, facing Philly next. Although the Rockets lost Game 1, Calvin had a double-double with 18 points and 13 assists, but the Sixers shot 59%. He dropped 32 points and 8 assists in Game 2, but Philly would win again. Houston finally cut into the deficit with a Game 3 win, as Calvin dropped 12 points and 7 assists. He scored 22 in Game 4, but he fouled out as Houston went down 3-1. He would drop another double-double with 15 points and 10 assists in Game 5 to help Houston live to fight another day. He would drop 22 in Game 6, but the Sixers would win a close one and Houston was eliminated. The Rockets shifted the lineup in 1977, as Rudy's offensive versatility allowed him to play the 3, and Calvin moved to the 2, as Lucas was more of a point guard than he was. But Moses would miss significant time with injury, and Rudy's season would end after 23 games due to being punched in the face by Kermit Washington on December 9th against the Lakers. These absences gave Calvin the green light that he had in college. Although Houston was no longer going to be competitive, he would have the best season of his career. He caught fire in the month of March, as through the first 3 weeks, he put up 30, 32, 39, 28, 32, 46, 33, 22, 33, and a career high 57 against the Nets on March 18th, followed by 74 points in the next 2 games. Although he led the league in shot attempts, he was still efficient, shooting 49% from the field. John Lucas had a good sophomore season, finishing second in the league in assists. Calvin would average 25.5 points, 2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 steals this season. But Houston had the second worst offense in the league, with the slowest pace, so they finished 28 and 54. Houston had signed Rick Barry in the offseason, as he would play solid minutes at the 3, although it was a far cry from his Golden State days. John Lucas was traded to the Warriors as Calvin moved back to the point guard, and Slick Watts was brought in to back him up. Calvin dropped 35 points in the second game of the season, as this was one of 7 30-point games. He was also great defensively and recorded 15 games with 3 or more steals. The Rockets would send Moses, Rudy, and Calvin to the All-Star game this year, as Calvin became the shortest All-Star in NBA history until Isaiah Thomas in 2016. Moses won the MVP this year as well, averaging 25 points and 18 rebounds. Even though their defense was lacking, Houston had the 5th best offense in the league, finishing with a 47 and 35 record. Calvin would average 20 points, 2 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1.5 steals this year as Houston faced Atlanta in the first round. The Hawks were able to win Game 1 by 3, despite a 4 for 24 shooting night from John Drew. Calvin didn't do too much better with 12 points on 5 for 16 shooting, but he did get 5 steals in the loss. The Rockets were ice cold in Game 2, shooting 34%, including a 14-point night on 4-15 shooting from Calvin, although he got 5 steals again, but the Rockets were eliminated. Houston retooled in 1979, acquiring Tom Henderson and Billy Paultz as depth off the bench, as well as trading Mike Newland to New Jersey. Calvin moved back to shooting guard as Houston drafted Alan Leavell to run the point. Robert Reed would assume the starting small forward spot. Calvin did his usual work this season, with his best performance being on March 19th against the Knicks, when he had 38 points and 10 assists. Calvin averaged 20 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Moses did his usual damage as well, while Rudy was showing signs of regression. Houston finished 41 and 41, earning a first-round matchup with the Spurs. Calvin showed out in Game 1, dropping 28 points and 3 assists in a 6-point win. George Gerber went off for 44 points and 7 rebounds as the Spurs took Game 2. 2 stars for Houston played amazing in the closeout game, as Moses had 37 and 20, while Calvin had 33, 5, and 5. Houston faced Boston next, but the Celtics were just beginning their dominance in the 1980s, so the Rockets were severely outmatched. They were swept as the closest game of the series was 17 points. Rudy was pretty much done by 1980, as he only played in 52 games. Coach Del Harris would split the point guard minutes between Calvin and Leavell, but Calvin would still produce in the bench role. He was still scoring at an elite level, as he went off for 42 off the bench on January 3rd against Denver. He was still a pest on defense as well, as he had 12 games with 3 or more steals. But Houston really wasn't winning a lot, as they were 16 and 26 at the All-Star break. They limped to a 40 and 42 finish, just barely grabbing the last playoff spot. Calvin would average 17 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 1.5 steals. leading the league with a 96% free throw percentage. Houston faced the Lakers in the first round, as they were heavy underdogs in this series. Moses Malone dominated in Game 1 with 38 points and 23 rebounds, as Calvin dropped 30 points and 4 assists off the bench in a 4-point win. He dropped 29 points, 8 assists, and 2 steals in Game 2, but the Lakers would win by 5. Game 3 was a defensive battle as both teams shot under 40%, but Magic shot 2 of 14 and 6 of 11 from the line as the Rockets escaped LA with a 3-point win. The Spurs were next in the semifinals, as this was a back and forth series, as Calvin was thriving as a sixth man, averaging 23 points, 4.5 assists, and 2 steals through the first 6. He would start in Game 7 and drop his playoff career high of 42 on 68% shooting as the Rockets faced the Kansas City Kings in the conference finals. He would go 1 for 7 in Game 1, but Houston still won by 19, as the Rockets easily got past the Kings in 5, punching their ticket to their first finals in franchise history, facing the Celtics. The series was tied after 4 games, with Calvin putting up about 10 points a game on below 40% shooting, but he wouldn't play in Games 4 and 6, as Boston won the series in 6, capturing the title. The Rockets re-signed Elvin Hayes in 1981 after his successful stint with the Bullets, as they needed someone to replace Rudy's production. Even at 36 years old, he was still averaging a double-double. Moses Malone would win his second MVP this season, averaging 31 points and 15 rebounds. Calvin's minutes would drop to under 20 a game as his career was nearing its end. Despite his inconsistent playing time, he was still able to put up points, dropping 7 20-point games, even scoring back-to-back 30-point games in January. Levo was the full-time starter this season as the Rockets rode their top 10 defense to a 46-36 record. Calvin averaged 10 points, 1 rebound, and 2.5 assists this year as Houston faced the Sonics in the first round. The Rockets couldn't get anything going in Game 1, shooting 36% as a team in a 15-point loss. It was Seattle's turn in Game 2 as they shot 35% in a 21-point loss. Sigma dropped 30 points and 17 rebounds in Game 3 as Calvin dropped 3 points on 1 of 7 shooting in a 21-point loss for Houston. It was pretty clear that Houston was rebuilding in 1982 as they traded Moses Malone to the Sixers for Caldwell Jones and a first-round pick. The Rockets would be a bottom feeder this year, but Calvin still came off the bench. Houston had won just 2 out of their first 20 games, but Calvin was still providing solid bench scoring at 34 years old. His best game of the season was a 32-point and 3-assist performance on 65% shooting against the Lakers on December 1st. The Rockets weren't terrible defensively, but they lacked a capable scorer as Allen Levo led the team in scoring with less than 15 points a game. Houston would have one of the worst seasons in NBA history this year, finishing 14-68. In Calvin's final season, he averaged 13 points, 1 rebound, 2.5 assists, and a steal. He led the league for the second time, shooting 92% from the line. Calvin would retire after this season, as he was the Rockets' all-time leading scorer. If he stayed a couple more years, he could have had a chance to play with Ralph Sampson or Hakeem Olajuwon. After his retirement, he would be an assistant coach in Houston for a few years, before transitioning into commentating games for the Rockets. His number 23 jersey was retired by both Niagara and the Rockets, as he would achieve a goal that nobody would have ever imagined when he got to the league. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1993. Becoming the shortest NBA player to make it. Calvin Murphy was instant offense whenever he stepped on the court, but it took a while before he was given the minutes he needed to show his talents. But once he got it going, it was hard to stop him. His quickness allowed him to get to his spots and heat up in the mid-range. His height disadvantage didn't affect his play at all, as he attacked the rim frequently, shooting his floater or gliding through the air for an acrobatic layup. He wasn't someone you wanted to foul, as he was nearly automatic from the line, as he also gave maximum effort on defense. Calvin was the heart and soul of the Rockets for over a decade, helping them to their first finals appearance and paving the way for undersized guards, as he proved all the doubters wrong, becoming a Hall of Famer. Thank you guys for all the support on the videos. I really appreciate you guys. And we got 10K views on that West Unsell vid. That's fire, man. I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. You know, this channel is really growing faster than I really imagined. Like, I'm just like, wow, like you guys are really supporting these videos. And it really makes me really motivated to make them, you know, like I like doing this stuff. This is fun for me. Thank you. I really appreciate all the support. Leave a like, hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button. I don't think I've ever promoted this on my channel. If you ever wanted to just support, there's a member button. You'll be able to see the videos before I drop them. So that's just if you want to support. Like I said, it's just there. You know, I'm not going to throw it in your face. It's just an option if you want to support the content. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.